conservation meeting for January 16th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. The McDonald Brown Conference Room is now open. And entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January 2nd.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. First one up is going to be a continued hearing, but 0 Crescent Street and 217 Crescent Street with 0 Stony Road. So you're all set.
All right. For the record, Claire Hogan with LAC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant, Adrinas Brothers, and Al Adrinas is here today. Joining me is the engineer Bob Forbes with Zenith. I know we had a few conversations about stormwater and engineering components of the project, so he's here tonight in case there are any sort of direct questions that he can help answer and sort of move those things along. But since the last meeting in December, we provided a supplemental report that essentially summarizes the comments that we had from the commission members and members of the public at the last meeting. A lot of them were sort of asking to, provide responses with the revised plans with a follow-up supplemental letter, but there were really, 2 items that we wanted to discuss with the commission and sort of have a conversation with you all before, coming up with our own response. We just want to, have dialogue and have you involved with how we move forward with some things. So I'm happy to go through each comment, or we could just jump into the sort of 2 remaining items, whatever you prefer.
Okay, are you going to address all the comments, or you just got a couple that you could only
There's only
take care for tonight?
Yeah, there's only a couple that we can sort of discuss with you so we have a good sort of strategy going forward with how to respond to them. And then all the other comments that we respond with, for example, this will be reflected in a subsequently provided revised plan. We're not really intending to discuss it tonight. We're just informing you that we know it's a comment, we plan to address it.
Okay.
I mean, should we go over each item for the record and the public, or?
They're gonna be addressed on the plans, so if we have questions.
You'll be able to address it then.
Right, until we see the plans, probably. The responses, I did send out the letter, copies, so that you all had what they were working on. Like, there are a couple items that
Yeah.
they needed more discussion.
That's fine.
All right, so you want to just jump into those?
Yeah,
Sure.
just jump into that.
Okay. So it'd be comment 5 in our letter, but the first thing to discuss, or I guess that's the wrong one. Comment number 6 that we'd like to discuss is something that Tim brought up at the last meeting about the individual lots complying with section 8 of the stormwater bylaw. And that's just something we wanted to discuss with you further because we want to ask the commission to consider addressing the individual lot compliance with that standard, or if we need to do any work towards that at this point of the project, even though those lots are going to be permitted with the commission individually. We just want to ensure through this process before we get to that point that they can be permittable. Ultimately the entire subdivision and stormwater features have been designed very cohesively with the idea that those lots will be developed. So the stormwater design in itself is, accounting for those, but we don't necessarily need you guys to say yes or no to anything in relation to this discussion tonight. We just kind of want to have this conversation and figure out where we can go forward. But I feel like Bob could probably do a much better job explaining the section 8 and sort of what it pertains to. So I'll just sort of pass it off to him.
Yeah, no
That
problem.
works.
Thanks, Claire. Again, Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineers. So we've thoroughly reviewed the town's stormwater management regulations and have no problem with them. In fact, our design will meet or exceed every performance standard that's in here. So I guess that's a good thing. We did have one point that we wanted to clarify and at least discuss. And that's section 8.5 and specifically 8.5.2. And what that basically says is, when you have on a new building lot having soils of special concern, which is defined as soil, groundwater within 30 inches of the ground surface, which we have on probably 3/4 of the lots in this project. A 50-foot buffer strip of naturally occurring vegetation must be maintained between the street layout line and the bottom, basically, and essentially anything on the lot, except for the driveway going through that 50-foot buffer. And the reason we wanted to discuss that is because, number one, I'm not sure what that does for stormwater. We like I stated previously, we can meet all of the performance standards without doing that. And our feeling on that is, number one, we don't know why you would have that 50-foot buffer strip. Doesn't really, it could actually make drainage worse by having that 50-foot buffer strip. Number two, it's going to tend to spread out the development and push it out further than its original footprint. Number three, you're going to get the possibility exists. We have the road essentially elevated a couple feet above existing grade, and the house and septic system is going to be elevated above existing grade. So you would have this swale, a ponding area in between the roadway and the house, in the yard and the house, and that could tend to collect water and be a problem, especially in the portions of this site where we have very tight soils, which are out back as you cross the wetland area. So I can. So essentially, we have very sandy soils up here, and then we have much tighter soils back here. And this is where we're more concerned with this requirement. So, and again, what that's going to do is it's going to, I know Mr. Hay discussed with Claire today that he didn't care for the idea of houses being put up high, on a hill. And that's what's going to tend to happen if we have to provide that 50-foot buffer. So what we would like to do, and again, this isn't for the purposes of getting the subdivision approved, but we certainly don't want to get the subdivision approved and run into a situation where we're not clear on what needs to be done with the lots and there's confusion or whatever. So we wanted to bring it to a head now. The other thing it would do, in this particular case, we have wetlands on the perimeter of the site, so that buffer zone is going to push our houses back closer to the wetlands, which again, I think we've got several things that would be detrimental to the project if we were to have to meet that. So what we would like to do, and I also discussed this with Pat Brennan, who's the commission and the planning board's consultant. And I just said, Pat, can you please just give me some insight on what this is for, what this does? And he said, I honestly don't have any idea what this does. It doesn't do anything for that buffer zone doesn't necessarily do anything for stormwater. So what we would like to do is come in and discuss the possibility of getting waivers for that under the precondition that the entire project as a whole meets all of the performance standards in both the Massachusetts stormwater management standards and the town's stricter requirements. We would meet every performance standard, except for that the buffer zone isn't really a performance standard. It's like a dimensional requirement or something that nobody seems to understand. So maybe if you could provide some clarification on why that's in the regs, we can figure out some way to look at it in a different way.
I'll give a little feedback.
Yeah.
It's not so much the setback along the road as it is the abutting properties side by side. We're finding that they're draining faster, quicker because of the slopes onto the abutting properties or into a channel beside it.
Okay,
And that was what the intent was, to give it a bigger buffer, to keep it from traveling as fast because of the soils, because of the slopes onto the abutting property. It's meant on some of them because it's a single lot on a road front that is draining it on to the road. And
Right.
some of them, because of the size lot and where they're putting all their stormwater, they're not collecting and keeping it on the lot. So it was a buffer to keep it, and that was the intent.
okay, I
why that was
understand.
put there.
It does, just so you're aware, I don't believe it says anywhere in here side lot lines. It just says from the street layout line. So, but again, the layout of this project and the design that we've put before this commission, the planning board, and Mr. Brennan, takes all of that into account, and we wouldn't have those issues once this thing is done.
I think, John, because of the slash, it was lot and, it didn't put and or, but the lot slash
Okay.
street layout, so the lot line and street layout line. I
Okay,
think that's was the
yeah,
intent when it was changed. And again, it was more because of the certain situations, again, whether it's a high water table, the soils don't allow for it to perk as fast, so it's all just ponding and puddling between lots, and it's
Okay.
going at such a fast rate.
yeah.
that We needed a
understood.
greater buffer.
And it would
We were
seem
finding-
like it might come more into play on like a Form A lot, on a single lot, rather
It
than a
was, we
project
had-
that's being designed in total.
Right,
Okay.
I will say the
That's
last
what I was
subdivision
thinking
that the
too, where
applicants,
you've got neighbors. where You have to, and it's not a development where you're dealing with stormwater
Right.
issues as you hear. You necessarily wouldn't do that on a single
right, where
lot.
you're planning, the only reason I called it out was just to make sure that we were trying to, and I know the last subdivision didn't
So
have, right.
So the end result is what we already did at Lamppost. We don't want houses
Right.
on bunks.
Right.
We want it to
Right.
look like
And that was,
they blend, so that, in order to do that, obviously, we have to take the trees down.
But also on lampposts, look how far back you gotta go back to the houses. Backyards and the houses are like from here. There's a yard. So you're talking about pushing it back, making it not, favorable for people to buy, or?
No, we wanna stay, we'd rather get bigger backyards
Yeah,
or stay away from the
Yeah,
wetlands.
We'd like
make it
to
more
minimize the
appealing.
footprint, yeah. Be able to fit our septic system in the front of the lot, so you minimum setback from the road to the septic to the house. And then that gives us more separation to
So the-
wetlands
yeah,
and
50
a better
it wasn't intended.
situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking again, the intent was more for a single home being built with a budding.
That's how it kind of reads when you're reading it, you know?
They're all
Yeah.
open to some interpretation,
Yeah.
I think, so.
So is that something that the commission would consider when we come back for the individual lots? If we can
Yeah,
show
and-
that it's a better situation what we're doing, then,
And I'm thinking that, again, we probably wanna deal with it individual lots, only because at this point, we don't know what size houses, how many
oh, absolutely.
garages they
Absolutely.
want on it. I mean, we've had a bunch that all of a sudden have been approved, and then they doubled the width of their driveway and added 2 garages onto the house. And it's all within a year or two of being built.
Yeah.
Oh, they built it and then they say they need more space. Well, your stormwater permit didn't cover or even include all that, and it's a
Right.
brand new home.
Understood.
So
Yeah,
if
so
we deal with them individually, but
that makes
for
sense.
you going forward, knowing that
Okay.
the intent, and,
Well, we've had that problem already.
right. and
Before.
that's-
Whether you have the intent, it's the person who buys a house, they might have a different intent on doing what they wanna do later on down the road.
Right.
Not saying that you guys don't have anything bad, but you're trying to protect it so it doesn't happen again.
Understood.
I think we need to come back with footprints, placeholders that are larger than our worst case scenario, instead of showing you the smallest house, let's show you the largest, some side load garages, things that are gonna show the more impervious, so that we
Right, so
don't
you
have
can-
that issue going down the road. And then now's the time to design for that.
Right, and that's why I was bringing that up
So maybe we
earlier,
should-
so that if we,
We'll talk, but maybe we should be coming back to you with a stormwater application at this point, in addition to what we're doing.
So on those 22 houses that you got proposed there, you're figuring that in, whether it's gonna be under the house, the garages, or next to the house?
There's,
I mean, you're figuring that already, right?
deferring that question to Bob, but yes, in
We've,
other words, the
we've
design
put
is.
moderately, so we put 1,800 square foot footprint houses, which
Okay.
ends up working out to be like a 2,600 square foot house
That's-
on
that's
each
what I
lot.
thought.
Right.
So it's a, you know, it's a good sized house, but like you said, people might come in and say, I want a 4,000 square foot
Right.
house there.
But
But
we
they
would
would-
So-
deal with that individually.
Yeah, but then when you come back
But-
for the
Well, they
individual
put the
lots.
pool, the patio, and a basketball court.
Exactly, that's where you guys gotta put
Right,
down
and
the lot.
We can't plan for that.
Right, you can't, and that's why.
But I
that's-
think-
So how did you plan for land posts then?
Well, we don't have the pool, the patio, and the
Well, I
basketball.
understand that, but it's just, you just didn't even figure on that. I mean, how did you figure on that compared to
No,
this
because the
one?
houses pretty much matched what was on the approved plan.
Okay. Even though that you didn't care, it seemed like you cared about the backyard of how much space to the sides of the house, to the retaining
If-
ponds and all that stuff.
But, you know, what can I do? You know, if the people don't want the house, they don't have to buy the house.
No, I
You know what I mean?
understand.
And-
But you wanna put as big of a house as you can on the lot.
Not necessarily, but you want the latitude to do that in case you have a buyer that wants that. You
True.
know, that's
So,
unfortunately.
Maybe we should talk stormwater later? Does that
Well, I
make
think
sense? In
we
other
need,
words-
we need to talk about making sure we design our entire subdivision to take that something, maybe
Yeah, I
we
think-
need to, instead of 1,800, Bob, we gotta go a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I haven't discussed that with Al
Well,
until
but
right
I-
at the second.
I don't wanna see any humps.
No.
Or
That's
it's
exactly
we're
what
on
taking
the
care of the
same page.
We're
drainage
talking about.
and
That's a-
sloping it out and
That's
not
not
having.
That's
we
what we
made
need.
it-
We need that
made
waiver to do that,
We did a rule, we put in a storm water management
to eliminate that.
ruling to eliminate that
Right.
further on down the road.
Right, so that's why we need the
Okay.
waiver for that 50 foot to do that and
Just
make
for
it,
the
make it one, not, you
But
can't,
I think what Al, more, aside from this 50-foot buffer, what Al's saying is we put a bigger footprint, we put a bigger driveway and we account for that in the drainage for the system for the entire project. Now, this drainage system works very well, so, for what we have laid out already. So we may need to tweak it a little bit, some of the detention basins or whatever, but, it makes sense. That way, it ends up being whatever that square footage is for the footprint of the big monster house. Every one that comes in front of you will be that size or smaller, or significantly smaller. And then it'll be easy for you guys to say, yeah, this, you know, they accounted for this much and it's less than that, so it's an easy approval.
So if you go bigger on the lot size,
Not lots,
I mean,
just
the
houses.
The
Yeah.
footprint of the
Footprint.
house.
is that gonna eliminate anything with the amount of houses? Possibly, or
No, it'll be the same, we'll
just
we'll
lose a
squeeze
yard.
it onto the setback requirements that the town has set up through zoning, so.
lose a yard, or instead of a 2-car garage, 1-car garage, or something like that?
Yeah, who knows, that's what I'm gonna have to, like I said, I haven't discussed this with Al until just this minute, so we'll discuss what he wants to do, as far as, that layout. Now, one of the specific things that has to happen for this particular design is the driveways have to be graded into the street. And that's how the system works here, so regardless of what we do, we're gonna have to maintain that. We're not gonna be able to let portions of driveway flow, untreated off the back of lots into wetlands, it's just not allowed. So that's something that we'll have to take into account when we go through that exercise.
So if we eliminate this 50-foot buffer, you think it's gonna affect anything? Because I know we should protect it to the
Not,
point.
not the way they are proposing to redesign. I mean, there may be some lots that can't fit that giant size house. Just because of the
Absolutely.
setback.
Absolutely.
I mean, and so the ones that can, those are the ones that are
Yeah.
more desirable if you want a
It's not everyone's
45,000 square foot house.
Could you please point out to me the 50-foot buffer you're trying to eliminate?
If we don't have it on these
Yeah,
plans,
let's
this is
not
what we're
mix it up
asking
with
for,
the
we're
rest.
saying
Right.
this, so what it would be, I'm gonna draw, apologize, I'm gonna draw on this.
Okay.
So we have our roadway to here.
Yeah.
Then what they're saying is, we would have to have a 50-foot buffer of vegetation to here. And then we would have, everything gets pushed back closer to the wetlands. We would have to have our septic, that septic could start at 50 feet, and the house has to be 20 foot back from there. So that's what ends up happening. It just spreads everything out more trees. We're saving trees in the front of the lots, but some of these the trees in the front of the lots have to come down just to build the roadway. So if we took it from that front lot line, the street layout line back, we'd still be losing some trees just to build that roadway system. So what we've done is we just laid out, we just wanted to make sure that this all works, and we have to have something to base our drainage design on. So that's why we chose that, whatever, 2,600 square foot house with a good sized driveway and 2-car garage. It's probably a medium sized valued house that's going up in town now. And so that's what it would do, it would just push everything out.
So if we left that 50 foot there, you'd have to have basically smaller houses pushed back.
We have to figure out how to deal with the drainage that ends up ponding in this area. Because right now, how we have it is the drainage in the front of the house and the driveway drains into the roadway. If this is all lower than this in the road, that's, water's gonna pond in there, now we gotta do something else in there. It ends up essentially being a detention basin in front of everybody's house.
It was more the sides with the inherent pond.
And what about the back?
So for my
Well,
own
the back,
clarification again,
50 foot.
the way you designed the stormwater
As long as they have
management
that.
land for this development will handle the largest house you could put on a lot.
It will, yeah, the
That's
revised
basically
plan that we
designed
come
in.
back to you with will show a bigger house and a bigger driveway.
Right,
And then, like I say, I'll let you guys know what that is.
okay.
Then if they come in further down the line, a homeowner, whatever, and they
It's
want to
designed
do
for-
a
Right, like it's.
1,800
It could be,
square foot
it
footprint,
could be
but
smaller.
we've
So if
designed
you-
it for a 2,500 square foot footprint.
Would it handle
It's
it if you
less.
put 2,500 square foot houses there?
That's what I'm gonna do, that's what I'm gonna do.
I mean, that would handle all, no
That-
problem if you put all 22 houses at 2,500 square feet.
I'll make it work. That's what Al's asking me to do. And if I can't make it
I
work,
just wanna make sure that
yeah, we'll have smaller houses. It's pretty,
somebody could say, I want this small house or whatever, but all of a sudden, there's gonna be 22 houses of 3,000 square feet, and then
I
like, what's
agree.
going on?
I agree, so I think what Al is saying, again, let me account for that in the
Just wanna make
drainage
sure it's gonna
design. It might have to tweak the basin out to make it 2 inches higher, couple feet wider, whatever. But if I do that, then it'll just be, I don't know, systematic. It will systematically make it easier for you guys to approve that if people eventually come in with is less impervious area than what we've already accounted for in the drainage design for the whole system.
So let me see if I got this straight. What, you want a waiver so in the front you do not have to do the 50 foot?
That's all we're asking for. No performance standard at all.
Because we were thinking of the size.
Right,
not
and we've
the front.
accounted for all the drainage that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a 50-foot buffer to the wetlands,
That's what
it's
I
a
was.
different.
That we
Yeah.
provided. That we got.
We're
we
not
got that.
asking for a wetland.
Right.
This is a stormwater issue that we're
Yeah.
dealing with.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, knowing that we're coming back with the individual lot requests later, we just wanted to get ahead of that now to sort of ask for that waiver currently, to know that when we come back to you guys down the road for individual, there's not gonna be a question of
Right.
permittability.
What about the front lots out by the street down? You
I'll
asking
put
for
them,
the-
I'll
You
put
asking for
a
the same
bigger
thing?
house on every lot, so.
But I mean, you asking for the same thing on the front?
There's really no
with the
trees
seven
up
Well,
front,
yeah, I don't know, and
There's
we
no
have,
trees
we
on those
have
lots?
greater depth to, this is all an open field right now, so.
Yeah. No, I
The
understand that.
naturally occurring vegetation would be grass or
Yeah.
weeds or whatever is out there. But we also have greater depth to groundwater here, so I'm not sure.
The soils and
it would be
the water
same
table may-
soil type.
But
But again, I will still do the same thing, and I'll provide a larger a house footprint, a larger driveway, and make sure that our infiltration basin can handle that larger.
Same with the 50 foot up there too, right? Same with the 50-foot out front there too.
Yeah, we
Right.
prefer to not have that. Again, what it does is
No, I'm
just
I'm
pushes
just asking, I just wanna make sure that's going for the front lots.
for the whole,
Okay.
let's say for the whole project, because all it does again is just pushes
Yep.
everything out. And I don't know, it just.
Yep.
I don't know, again, I don't know what it really does, for something like this where it's been designed already. For a Form A lot or individual lot that's being developed, I totally get it.
Okay.
You might want to relook at the wording though, if you do mean the side lot lines, because lot line / street line means to every engineer, that's where the lot meets the street.
Then you can come in front and discuss it and ask for it. At least we, you don't go and do it and then all of a sudden you have the problem. It's a good thing you caught it. Well, not caught it, but it's a good thing you asked.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's good to thank everybody for the
Yeah.
discussion, that was very productive.
And so we certainly intend to have all of this in writing, the request in writing. Again, we don't need a yes or no tonight. We know this is all sort of like a new discussion we just had, so we'll have it all in our next supplemental letter to have it more formally written for the record.
is that the only one you're asking for?
The second one we just wanted to talk about briefly was the open space discussion that we had last week, or last month. I think we confirmed through the planning board that it's actually not required to provide open space through the construction of this residential subdivision. In addition to that, whether we would consider it or not, when it comes to the residential subdivision ownership of the road, the utilities, the stormwater basins, the easements, is available for the town to take ownership, but they typically only decide that after the project is constructed, so we won't really know that answer until the project is completed. So that being said, if the town does decide not to take ownership of all those features, including the easements, goes to the homeowners association. And if we were to make that decision now, it sort of creates a liability issue for folks down the road. They don't, have the ability to weigh in on what that looks like. And if it goes to the town, then the town, there's plenty of easement opportunities that the town can decide when they take ownership, if they do, how they want to utilize them and where they would put that access. So just that being said, we're considering just asking to sort of table the open space discussion until, after the project's completed. And, if the HOA does take ownership, perhaps we can work something out with the commission at that time.
And to be perfectly clear, there is an easement on this plan that goes from the end of that cul-de-sac all the way to Mill Pond, all the way to our property line, which abuts Mill Pond. So it's already there. And if the easement language allows townspeople to traverse that, and if that's something that the town wants to consider, it's fine with us. It just, I don't think a homeowners association could have the liability of people just walking across the land to Mill Pond to get there, until such time as the town is petitioned to take the roadways as public roads. Once they do that, then like Claire is saying, I think it's perfectly fine that the easement's there, the access is there, and you can do whatever you'd like. Now, portions of that pond are also privately owned.
Right, there's probably 80% of it the Conservation Commission has. We were trying to look for access to Mill Pond for the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission, if at all possible with this development. And not knowing what the planning board's intent were, it's all up to them on how they look at this. But if there was a way to get an easement or some type of access to
It's
it
already there.
in the process, we would greatly appreciate it.
It is there, it is there, it's on the plan, so absolutely. I agree with you, and it's already there, so.
Now, what'd you say, the planning board said they don't think?
No, there's no open space requirement for the
Yeah,
plan, for
can you
subdivision
clarify
in
that
the town.
a little? I thought there was, depending on how
There
many
there isn't,
homes are
or they
developed.
There is
just.
Well, I
not.
did bring 4.6.1, which is planning boards, open space. Before approval of the plan of the board may also in proper cases require the plan to show a park or parks suitably located for playgrounds, recreation purposes, providing light and air. It's pretty lengthy. It is, at the planning board's discretion, they may, it's not a requirement.
That's correct, I
Right,
understand.
but it's
What's
in
the
their
planning-
purview, if they so wish to ask for,
Have
they
they-
can, but it's not a requirement, and there's.
Do you know if they're proceeding with that, or they've given a waiver? We don't know.
I don't know, I mean, it's,
I mean, we
planning
have
board,
a
I would just
position.
knew it was in
Yeah.
there, and I was just questioning if it was gonna be part of the plan. And if so, where we were looking for access to Mill Pond.
Yeah.
If there's an easement granted and there's access, then that's what
Was
we're
it one of those things that don't ask, don't say anything, and hopefully you don't have to worry about it?
What, for the
For
open
the open
space
space,
requirement?
for the
No,
planning
not
board?
at all. The
Or
planning board,
does the planning board actually
The-
say,
planning board has never required it, to my knowledge.
so do they even
Based
know?
on discussions with the chairman of the planning board,
That's
the planning
interesting. I
board
find
has
that
never
No, no, it's
required
just
it.
like
It's
never.
never-
So you've
It's
never,
never been
never done it?
required. When I
Never done
lived in California, in the
required it or
San
asked
Diego
for it?
area, every development
No.
required that,
Hmm.
without exception, so
Now,
I guess it depends.
now, take a closer look at what we've called the drainage and the wetlands easements on this plan. There's tens of, dozens of, I don't remember the exact number clear, but we went over that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's many, many acres that are gonna have an easement to preserve them. Now, there's a smaller amount of upland in there, but there is upland in that area.
Right.
So upland and wetlands are gonna have easements that are going to be protected forever, perpetuity by deed restriction. So, we're not required to provide open space, but
Right.
effectively, we've provided it on these plans already. And it's dozens of acres. I believe it's
In one, can
30,
you get like
40.
1 acre of upland for, or is it a
I mean,
little
don't you think it'd be a
bigger?
little
Pretty
appealing for a
isolated
family, for
pockets, yeah.
a development with a bunch of families coming in those big houses?
what
A lot of
is,
kids, might
A playground.
help them come and buy them.
every playground I pass is empty. Every time I pass it, it's kind
Well,
of
I'm just
sad.
saying, I mean, it's gonna be stuck out there, so.
But that's planning board, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Real quick, I just don't want to interrupt
No,
your
go ahead.
presentation, Claire, but there were questions about the pond, the basins being wet or dry.
Right.
And just so you're aware, all of the basins here are dry. They're designed to drain within several hours after the storm event. There's infiltration basin. One of them is strict infiltration basin that the water goes away into the ground and the real sandy soils. We have one that's an infiltration/detention basin. Most of the water goes directly into the soil. We have 2 detention basins out back. Now, those have outlets at the bottom of them, and they, exactly what the word detain infers. You're collecting the stormwater runoff in a large basin and letting it out, so it's detaining, it's slowing things down. So what it does is it collects it and slowly meters it out. So there's still water left in it after the rain stops, but then again, in a couple hours later, that fully drains pipe at the bottom of the basin. So it's just like taking a garden hose and putting it in your bathtub with the open drain. It's going away.
Yeah.
So they're all just, and I apologize, I had another meeting that I had to attend at the last time, so we could have taken care of all this at the last meeting, but that's the answer to that.
Who will maintain the basins?
Right now, it's the responsibility of the developer and the homeowners association that gets created until such a time, if that time ever happens, that the town takes ownership of the roads and the infrastructure. If they choose to do that at some point in the future, the maintenance of the roadways and the detention basin goes to the town.
What if the town does not choose to take it
Then
over?
it's homeowners association in perpetuity.
And so what's their liability if they don't maintain it? What happens?
Part of the stormwater bylaw we have has it in there that the town can either hire an outside party or do it itself and back charge with liens onto the property owners themselves. So the homeowners association and individual members would.
Right.
When does the homeowners association begin?
Once homes are purchased and you create from the first day that somebody occupies the first house, that owner is the homeowners
Yeah,
association.
you don't
And
wanna,
another
you
one
don't wanna
comes
turn
in-
it over too soon.
No,
We,
no,
we
no.
went into that where I lived
Yeah.
in town, you know, let's
So,
get everyone in and
the,
then.
yeah, in other words, that homeowner would have, I forget how many lots are in this subdivision,
29?
29 or whatever it is. So that homeowner would have 1/29th of the responsibility. The developer or owner of the subdivision would have 28/29ths.
Oh, okay. So you
Another
still-
house comes in and it just keeps until it's fully owned by the people who live in the
Okay,
homeowner.
so the
homeowners.
association is in partnership with the developer until it's completed?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if the developer chooses not to have a homeowner association, then they have control over the maintenance of those things.
Oh, I didn't know that, yeah. I didn't know
Forever.
that, yeah.
Who, the developer?
But I can't imagine.
Until
why.
the town, if the town
Take it
chooses
over,
not
won't
to
you?
take the
For the rest of your
roads,
life.
it's the developer.
I don't think that'll happen.
See how good of a landscaper you are.
Exactly.
Now, I really like trees.
Same.
And so I heard you talking about maybe not cutting down as many trees if you do it a certain way.
So what we've done is we've shown on these plans, you can see the proposed tree line that we're gonna keep these existing trees. So this, I don't know what kind of line you call that, but semicircles.
Squiggly?
Yeah. So that's where we're trying to really minimize the tree clearing. And I would just like to say, where people are very concerned about clear cutting of large portions of land, I have worked with Mr. Andrunas on another subdivision that he's halfway through constructing. He's done an excellent job of not clear cutting. He's in his feeling is, and he can speak to this himself, but the more trees you leave, the more valuable the lots are. So,
Yeah.
so feel free to inspect what we've done for a proposed tree line. There's some grading that needs to be done out in the back portion, but we've left a big section of that inside the circle. The big portion in here is gonna remain trees, so in other words, it'd be a section of a wooded area between these houses and these, so you're not, people aren't looking out in their backyards into another person's backyard. So we've tried to do that, and we've tried to minimize the tree clearing, so again, feel
Well,
free
there's
to
a few trees there that are really special. One has.
Every tree is special.
I know, but there's one even more special than others, so I was just wondering if you.
Where is it? Where is it?
It's bigger
A
than
mile in, or is it right off the roadway? I mean, can you
I
go
I
out
was
there and
lost in-
flag
I
it?
was lost in the woods, I don't know where.
That kind of leads my next question.
Yeah, I
Which
can see
did-
where this is going.
Right, it did mention, Claire, this morning, that has the road been staked yet?
It has not,
Okay.
and we,
I've been out there a couple times and
yeah,
kind of have an idea where it is, but
Yeah.
I,
it's a good idea.
We'll get it done for you.
because there was another stone wall that's not on the plans that I did mention showed up. It's on, actually Google Earth, you can see it, and it's fairly close to the cart path when you go in at the end of the field, where the old field was. And I was trying to use that as a reference point, but it wasn't on the plans, so I couldn't really figure out where the road was in relation to that, so
Okay.
it was,
I will let the surveyor know.
that was,
Could
can you
there
answer
be-
the other
could-
questions?
Could that be staked out by the next meeting?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Could have
Yes.
been staked out 2 meetings ago, right?
I believe it was supposed to be staked when the plans went to the planning board, but the weather hasn't been overly cooperative with rain, and it's not an easy path to get through, I will admit.
Right.
It's still gonna be easier for you to take the cart path to get back there. It will, rather than trudging through the wetlands, because the cart path is set off from where we're crossing the wetland.
And Tim, when it's staked out, I can send you an email, let you know, so you guys are aware when it's ready.
And the only other discussion we had, and it's still ongoing as far as Mill Pond and West Meadowbrook and how we're gonna deal with that and come up with it.
I think what you guys discussed, we preliminary talked about that, and I think what you guys discussed is fine.
Yep, so
Okay.
we're still collecting data
I
and,
just want to take a closer
Yeah.
look.
yeah, we'll just
See
take a
where-
closer look at everything, and within the next letter, we'll have our findings, and regardless of whether it's pond or river with riverfront area, we'll ensure that the project complies with the applicable performance standards,
And
so,
then, the bridge with the, culverts and all that stuff will be discussed next time?
yes.
Yeah, she's having one of their,
Our wildlife
Wildlife
biologist
experts
is
look at
taking a
that.
look to let us know sort of what's necessary, what works, and we'll certainly get that squared away for you guys.
And
I'm all set so far.
then just.
Thank you for explaining.
Our next
no problem. That's why we're here.
meeting would be February 6th. You wanna
That's
continue
the
till-
very next one?
Yep, continue to that one, or do you wanna go until the February 20th?
I
would
think 20th.
suggest the 20th.
would be
would
Okay,
better.
I mean,
don't-
Yeah.
right, I'm just
Yeah,
figuring with the amount of
we got a lot to
the
do.
work you have
Yeah.
to do that.
Yep.
Okay, waiver tonight or
Mm. What, waiver?
Yeah.
No, they do it tonight, right? Waiver the
the
50.
50 waiver
tonight
they're
or
looking
just-
for on the street.
Well, it's just a discussion, right? So we can just.
Right, they'll add the waiver formally
Do that
requesting
after,
it, then we can add that to the decision when we make it.
We'll certainly add the
They've got the
discussion.
direction on where to go with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we just
Always
didn't wanna show up
standing
and
on
say,
it.
we're asking for this waiver, and you guys are like, where is this coming
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
you know? So we preferred to have the conversation first.
All right, so entertain a motion to continue to the February 20th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you very much, everybody.
We do.
And hopefully you'll make it all home before the ice comes.
Watch the, watch
Nice.
the.
It's already here.
Yeah.
There's
It
the
It's already
stairs.
slippery when I walk.
Yeah, it was slippery when I left at 4.
I figured it was gonna, it looked like it was getting below freezing.
Okay, the next one is continue 40 United Drive.
And I don't have any response from the applicant as far as the continued date. They were supposed to reply, so my recommendation is continue that until the 6th. And I will get in touch with them and find out what the status is.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue to February 6th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one is this guy. Did you try to get in contact with this guy?
Okay, and I will run
Do
through
the
these
rundown.
administrative items and update you where we're at.
Yeah, get him.
For 363 South Elm Street, the property owner had a conflicting schedule tonight and couldn't make it, but he is planning on attending on the 6th, and he'll be here to discuss what his intention is, what he'd like to do, what our thoughts are, and where it could go from
Has
there.
he said anything to you about anything about maybe asking for something?
He,
About
he does want to do work within the 50 to the end of his driveway, where he backs out of the garage. He's looking to do something there, and he knows. He went and bought the house knowing there was easements and
part of this whole
restrictions.
thing.
He knew the
The whole
developer
thing.
had built it that way.
Yep.
Stakes.
It wasn't until
Going.
Took everything out.
somebody backed up and went over the cliff and got stuck, and he's looking to see if there's a remedy
Put
to
up a
that.
wall.
And so I said,
Yeah, wall.
Yeah, put up a wall zone.
you're welcome to come in and plead your case
Yeah.
and talk to the commission and see what we
Mm-hmm.
can come up with, and you can hire an engineer to figure out what to do if you want to go
Alright.
forward. So, 7 Belmont Street, that was a tear down and a rebuild. The project was under the square foot requirement of the old system. They didn't take into account the disturbance for the septic system, which would have put them over the threshold of square footage. However, the septic's all in the back. It's all level. There's no real runoff or drainage. The engineer hasn't done a lot of work in town, so it was a oversight, realizing that there was the stormwater bylaw with He just figured it was a rebuild, tear down. He actually, the impervious surface when complete will be less than what was there. There's less driveway, smaller house,
Okay.
and the lot did need some serious cleaning up.
So is it just like lawn right now, where the
Yeah.
septic is?
Yeah, it's just lawn area where the septic system already is, and it's not a mounded system, it's pretty much level with what's there.
So he'll back in a stormwater permit? Is that
Yeah,
pretty much-
administrative, it's under the threshold, so it's not a public hearing or anything. 393, I have not heard anything. 394, Matfield Street, I will be sending out an enforcement letter with fines for that one. Because he's already well over the 15,000 square foot of land disturbance.
So which one was this one?
Yeah,
now?
no response.
Oh, is
This is the one that's on Matfield on the left as you're heading towards Belmont. And they're filling in the front yard. It used to be a big gully, and
not leveling
it's
out.
now all gravel or fill.
Uh,
Not sure what the intent is, but the land disturbance will require it for us to at least know, and they'll need a permit. 482 East Street, which was the old Ira Smith
in the back.
location in the back. The square footage disturbance in the front for the paving, we're just replacing what was there.
Yeah.
And they used the millings to fill in a couple potholes where there was a turnaround area. The debris in the back is not from taking down trees. There's a tree company using the lot, and they come back from work and they store the logs and debris there until they clean it up and take it and chip it or get rid of it.
So it wasn't.
So it wasn't from that location, it was
Okay.
coming in on site,
That's good.
so no action needed on that one.
Good. Any new ones?
Nothing new, thank goodness.
You seen up on Scotland Street, all the water in front of what's that, the house there? The one that put the addition on and all that stuff. You see all the water that's in the front? Is that supposed to be the trench there? Isn't it supposed to be a trench?
I'll take a look, I had,
Because I went by it a couple times, I looked and I couldn't see if there was any, if it was filled in to the point where the water couldn't run under the driveway.
there's supposed to be a drainage ditch along,
They are
right,
along
the
the
road
other-
all the way down.
The arrow on the other houses, but you come to that one, I know the water was up there. It's basically almost up to the road,
Yep,
and I couldn't tell if
if it was flowing anywhere.
it was flowing.
Okay.
But I don't know if he filled it in, or if it got filled in. I don't know.
Or it's not open to the next
Well,
either
that's the
way,
thing.
so it's not
Although there is a ton of water from the river that came up,
right.
but even still,
It should be
it's
draining
just
somewhere,
it's bundling up there.
because we've had others on South Elm Street that have filled in and put piping underneath in the front. It's still there and still draining,
Yeah.
but,
To be honest, I'm surprised he hasn't said anything to us.
right, that,
I'd love if he did come in front of us and ask.
So we put a pipe there on his own? Or?
No, there was one there, but when he filled in to put the driveway to build onto the house and everything like that.
Oh, the electrician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think it might have.
it either is
Filled
plugged
in
or
or
clogged or
whatever.
it's not
Yeah.
drained, because every single one of those driveways
They do have it,
had a drain underneath it or a
but it
culvert.
just doesn't look like it's doing anything. I went by a couple times and it's just
It's not moving.
not
Yeah.
moving.
Okay.
All right, I don't have anything else.
Sign the documents. 44 South Main Street is just
That's just FYI,
Yeah.
that's continued at this point until next meeting.
Same with
And 686 Manley Street is continued, pending what goes on with the planning board, because they've got to have their public hearings on that. So that may get continued again, or changes may happen. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. So.
Any developments, new things coming in? Or?
The Shell station up near the highway has an ANRAD filing, and they've got a project change.
Okay.
So we'll see that before too long.
Yeah.
Start working on that, huh?
So, other than that, there's not a whole heck of a lot.
Okay.
Oh,
I think we have enough on our plate.
It's winter.
that time of year.
I noticed that the buildings are going up, across from the
The
village.
apartment.
farm.
Wasn't there an
Yes,
issue-
they finally
wasn't
got
there
their
an-
steel. Isn't that nice?
But wasn't there an issue?
So-
Didn't they get stopped?
What happened? I thought they were too high.
Zoning board, they came to an agreement to, I think it's a flat roof
Flat
now instead of the
roof.
pitch roof. So the height is whatever the zoning requirement is. So it
Only
won't be-
part of the steel's up though, they're probably,
Right, so they're,
All right.
that's a long project.
So in terms of like the drain, how does water drain off a flat roof?
Well, it's just pitch.
They've got-
it's
Slightly-
right,
like
there's a slight pitch and then in the corners, they typically have
Yeah.
roof drains. A lot of times they put them inside the wall, so you
Uh-huh.
don't see it.
Mm,
But they've had to account for that in their stormwater system.
All right.
So.
next to your bedroom.
What's that noise? That's the water effect that helped put you to sleep.
Yeah.
What does it? Is anything else?
I didn't have anything else.
Okay, well, guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, have a good night, Steve.
Thank you,
Night,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you.
Take care.
You
Take
too.
care.
Thank you, Ben, and who's